And so another new year beckons as Rosh Hashanah is upon us. What is the essence of the day? It's a time for reflection, a time for introspection, a time when we pause to reflect on the past, but more precisely resolve for the sake of the future. But what lies at the core of the day? What is its underlying significance? The Talmud famously tells us that the whole real point and purpose of Rosh Hashanah, the unique mitzvah, is of course that of the blowing of the shofar. What really is the message of the blowing of the shofar apart from watching the shofar blower and seeing how well and how long he can cope for? There are two distinct parables that are offered by two ancient sages which reflect the very essence of the day and indeed the whole point and purpose of shofar blowing. The great Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem told of the story of a king who sends his son, the prince, away from the palace in order to be able to explore life beyond the confines of the palace gates, to go out and discover the world, to make a little bit of a difference outside. But along the way, with the necessary funds, the prince himself gets a little bit distracted, loses focus, squanders his money, and before he knows it, he's disheveled, he's completely lost, and completely forgot about his whole point and purpose of the journey, such that he finally decides to make his way back to the palace. Only when he arrives at the palace gates, he's not readily recognizable. The guards refuse him entry, and a commotion kicks up. The king himself comes to the palace window to see what the commotion is all about, and when he looks in, he doesn't quite recognize the disheveled man standing there. The prince sees his father, recognizes him, and calls out, "Father!" Upon which the king recognizes certainly the voice, comes out of the palace to embrace his son and welcome him back home. Our souls are like those princes. They are up above in the king's palace, and then they're sent here into this world with a purpose and objective to achieve with all the necessary tools granted to us. And maybe along the way we lose a little bit of focus, and maybe along the way we lose direction. But on Rosh Hashanah we return to the palace gates, and it is precisely through the shofar that we cry out, "Father." It is that innocent, piercing cry from the depths of our hearts and souls. And God recognizes us, and He welcomes us back home. The other parable is offered by that of Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev, who told of a king who is wandering in a forest and finds himself hopelessly lost. Asking direction from a number of different people, all to no avail, he finally comes across one man who is able to point him in the way back to the palace. A little while later, that same man committed a very serious offense, which was going to be met with serious punishment and meted out by the king himself. He had but one request prior to the actual punishment. He asked that he be dressed in the same clothes that he was wearing on that day when he met the king in the forest. And he asked that the king put on the same layman clothes he may have been wearing when he was wandering that forest. And in that moment, as they were both wearing that garb, the king was overcome with emotion, with a deep sense of gratitude for how that man had helped him all that time before, as a result of which he forgot about the offense, he granted him clemency, and he spared him. The unique message from within that parable is the fact that when we blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, it reminds us of the all original shofar that was blown at Mount Sinai when we received the Torah and all the mitzvahs in order by which we should be able to lead a Jewish value-based life. And so maybe along the way we lose direction, maybe we caused various offenses of sorts, and maybe now we're facing judgment, but when we blow the shofar, we are reminding the king of that all original shofar, of our undertaking. Sure, maybe we did things wrong, but hey, don't lose sight of all the good we did as well. Don't forget about the way that we have undertaken and we have committed it. Let's face it, living the life of a Jew today is a struggle, so whatever I'm doing counts for a whole lot in the scheme of things. It's precisely these two parables that encapsulate the very theme of the Amidah that we recite on Rosh Hashanah. One verse is all about kingship, and that's the idea of the prince coming back and calling out to the king in his palace. And the other is all about remembrances. And that is the idea of asking God to remember all the good that we do throughout the course of the year. That's the essence of the shofar that we blow and the underlying theme of the day. So let us all look to call out to the king. Let us all ensure to be welcomed back home. Let us listen to the call of the shofar, telling God, reminding him, as it were, of all the good that we do, which he surely will then reflect upon. And as a result, he'll grant us, unquestionably, a very happy, a very healthy, a very prosperous, and indeed sweet New Year for one and all. Shana Tova.